60 years ago, the U.S. Air Force built a bomber they expected to fly for 20 years. That bomber is still on active nuclear duty today. Not in a museum, not in reserve storage. On alert, engines ready, weapons loaded, crew standing by. And last December, the Pentagon committed $48.6 billion to make sure it never gets retired. Not to replace it, not to phase it out, to transform it into something more dangerous than it has ever been in 6 decades of service. 3 different aircraft were built specifically to replace this one. All 3 failed. And now, the Air Force has stopped trying entirely. In this video, why every replacement crashed and burned, the engine crisis that nearly ended this program before it started, what 4 upgrades are turning this aircraft into, and the 98-year number that puts all of it into perspective. Welcome to Arsenal Exposed. The aircraft is the B-52 Stratofortress. It first flew in 1952. The engineers who designed it are gone. The factory that built it is closed. And yet right now, today, 76 of them are sitting fully armed at 2 Air Force bases in Louisiana and North Dakota. Loaded, fueled, and ready to launch nuclear weapons within minutes of receiving an order. That's not history. That's this morning. The Air Force never planned for any of this. When Boeing rolled the last B-52 off the production line in October 1962, the expected service life was 20 years. Maybe 25 if they were lucky. These planes were supposed to be in museums by the time Ronald Reagan took office. Instead, something happened that nobody inside the Pentagon predicted. Every single aircraft built to replace the B-52 failed. First came the B-58 Hustler, America's first supersonic bomber, sleek, fast, built to outrun Soviet interceptors. It looked incredible on the runway and turned into a maintenance catastrophe in the air. Too expensive to operate, too complex to fix. The Air Force retired it after just 10 years, gone by 1970. Then came the B-1 Lancer, swing wings, supersonic speed, everything the Air Force thought it needed to finally leave the B-52 behind. The B-1 entered service in 1986 and spent the next 3 decades getting hammered by combat missions over Afghanistan and Iraq until its airframe simply wore out. Today, the Air Force is retiring the B-1. The plane built to replace the B-52 is being replaced itself. Then came the B-2 Spirit, $2 billion per aircraft. Stealth technology so advanced that radar couldn't detect it. This was supposed to be the final answer. The problem? Congress could only afford 21 of them. 21 aircraft is not a fleet. It's barely a squadron. The B-2 never had the numbers to take over what the B-52 does every single day. 3 replacements, 3 decades of trying, 3 failures, and through all of it, 76 B-52s kept sitting at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana and Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota. Ready, armed, waiting. At some point, the Air Force stopped asking why it couldn't replace the B-52 and started asking a completely different question. What if instead of replacing it, we rebuilt it into something nobody has ever seen before? But here's what almost killed that question before anyone could answer it. The Air Force had a crisis on their hands. And it had nothing to do with money or politics or congressional budgets. It had to do with engines. Those 8 engines on every B-52 are Pratt & Whitney TF-33 turbofans, the original engines. The exact same ones installed when these aircraft rolled off the line in the early 1960s. Pratt & Whitney stopped manufacturing them years ago, which means every spare part in the Air Force inventory comes from a stockpile that gets smaller every single day, with no way to refill it. When a parts stockpile runs dry, maintainers do something called cannibalization. You pull working components off one aircraft to keep another one flying. Strip this plane, fix that plane. It works until you've stripped so many planes that there's nothing left to strip. That's exactly where the Air Force was heading. Air Force Global Strike Command officers admitted publicly that the TF-33s were finding new and creative ways of breaking. That's military language for, we have a serious problem and we're running out of time to fix it. Then Pratt & Whitney made it official. They cannot support TF-33 maintenance past 2030. After that date, the Air Force is completely on its own. No parts, no technical assistance, no safety net. Now here's why that deadline is so alarming. The B-52 isn't some retired platform collecting dust. It is an active nuclear deterrent. Right now, B-52 crews at Barksdale and Minot sit on alert, loaded with nuclear-armed cruise missiles, ready to get airborne within minutes of receiving an order. This is not history. This is America's nuclear posture today. You cannot let that capability collapse because you ran out of engine parts. The Air Force had two choices: retire the fleet before 2030 and lose the most versatile bomber in the inventory, or do something nobody had ever attempted at this scale. They chose option 2. And what they're building is called the Commercial Engine Replacement Program, CERP. Total cost, $48.6 billion. That's billion with a B. For context, that's more than the entire annual defense budget of most countries on Earth. And that money isn't buying a new bomber, it's buying the transformation of 76 existing aircraft into something their designers never could have imagined. When this program finishes, these aircraft won't even carry the same name. They graduate from B-52H to B-52J. There are 4 major upgrades, and each one changes what this aircraft can do. If you find this kind of deep dive on American air power interesting, subscribe to Arsenal Exposed. We do this every week and it's free. Start with the engines. Rolls-Royce won the contract to supply their F130 turbofan. Here's the detail nobody talks about enough. The F130 isn't a military engine adapted for civilian use. It's the exact opposite. It's the same engine powering the Gulfstream G650 business jet, one of the most reliable commercial aircraft engines flying today. Rolls-Royce built it for efficiency, longevity, and easy maintenance. Why does that matter? Because the supply chain already exists. The F130 is in active production right now. Parts are manufactured continuously. Mechanics are trained at facilities worldwide. When a B-52J needs an engine in 2048, nobody is hunting through aircraft boneyards. They're placing an order through the same network that keeps private jets flying out of London and Singapore. Each bomber gets 8 of them, 17,000 pounds of thrust per engine. More power, better fuel efficiency, and a maintenance burden that will never require cannibalizing sister aircraft again. They passed critical design review in December 2024 and are currently being altitude tested at Arnold Engineering Development Complex in Tennessee. Second upgrade, the radar. Out goes the old mechanically scanned array that's been sweeping the sky since Vietnam. In comes the AN/APG-188 bomber modernized radar, an active electronically scanned array, AESA. The same class of radar in America's newest fighter jets. Better targeting, better performance in bad weather, the ability to track multiple targets at once while flying at low altitude. Third upgrade, the cockpit. Every analog dial, every mechanical gauge, gone. Modern digital displays replace all of it. And the information flow changes completely. Instead of a navigator copying coordinates by hand off a radio call, the B-52J receives targeting updates, mission changes, and battlefield intelligence directly from other platforms in real time. The crew becomes part of a networked battlefield the original designers couldn't have imagined. And now the fourth upgrade. This is the one that should make adversary defense planners genuinely uncomfortable. The weapons bay receives the MILSTD-1760 Internal Weapons Bay Upgrade, a digital interface that increases internal payload capacity by 66%. That means 8 2,000-pound JDAM precision bombs carried internally. It means AGM-158B JASSM ER crews, missiles with a range of over 500 miles. It means ADM-160 CMALD decoys that saturate and confuse enemy air defense networks before the real weapons even arrive. 2 B-52J will deliver more firepower than 3 of today's B-52H, same number of aircraft, 2/3 more destruction, and then there are the external pylons. New hardpoints on the wings will support individual weapons weighing up to 20,000 pounds. You know what weighs nearly 20,000 pounds? The GBU-43B, the Massive Ordnance Air Blast Bomb, the MOAB, the largest conventional non-nuclear weapon in the entire American arsenal, the weapon that flattened a tunnel complex in Afghanistan in 2017 with a blast radius visible for miles. Early analysis suggests the B-52J may be able to carry 4 of them simultaneously. 4 MOAB. on one aircraft. That's not a bombing run. That's the end of whatever it's aimed at. But none of this works if the 60-year-old airframe can't survive it. So here's the question. How is a structure designed in 1952 still airworthy in 2025, let alone 2060? The answer goes back to a limitation that accidentally became an advantage. When Boeing's engineers designed the B-52, they didn't have computer modeling. They couldn't calculate stress loads digitally. They couldn't run virtual flight tests. So they did what engineers of that era did. They built everything stronger than the math required. Way stronger. Wings rated for loads they'd almost never encounter. Fuselage frames thicker than the minimum specs called for. Landing gear built for weights these aircraft rarely reached. That overbuilding looked like waste in 1962. In 2025, it's the reason this program exists at all. Colonel Scott Foreman, the B-52 System Program Manager at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma, confirmed these airframes can stay in service well into the 2050s, potentially all the way to 2060, without major structural intervention. That's not optimism. That's a conclusion drawn from decades of inspection data collected at every depot maintenance cycle. Stress fractures, corrosion, fatigue cracks, caught early, fixed before they fail. The structure holds. Everything else is replaceable. Now, this program isn't bulletproof, and the honest version of this story includes what could still go wrong. A recent Air Force audit found the service doesn't have a complete database of every spare part needed to sustain the fleet through 2060. Some components were manufactured by companies that went out of business decades ago. The audit made recommendations. The Air Force agreed to implement them. Agreeing and executing are two very different timelines. The maintenance schedule is also tight. A standard B-52 depot cycle currently runs 220 to 260 days. Adding engine replacements, radar integration, cockpit rebuilds, and weapons bay upgrades will extend that significantly. The Air Force is building a new hangar at Tinker capable of housing 4 aircraft simultaneously. But getting all 76 re-engined before Pratt & Whitney's 2030 cutoff is not a comfortable margin. Boeing is splitting the work across 4 locations: Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Seattle, and Indianapolis. The final B-52J reaches initial operational capability in May 2033. That's the plan. Military acquisition programs have a long history of not following the plan. The TF-33 deadline doesn't move for anyone. Every aircraft that hasn't been re-engined by 2030 is flying without a net. The Air Force needs to move at a pace it doesn't always manage. Whether it does is the most important unanswered question in American bomber aviation right now. And yet, even with those risks, the picture that emerges is unlike anything in the history of military aviation. Boeing delivered the last B-52 in 1962. The Air Force plans to fly the B-52J until at least 2060. That is 98 years of continuous service from a single airframe design. Nothing in military history comes close. Not a tank, not a ship, not another aircraft anywhere in the world. Here's a way to feel the scale of that. The Wright brothers flew at Kitty Hawk in 1903. 98 years later was 2001. Imagine if that same aircraft, updated along the way, but fundamentally the same design, was still carrying cargo when the World Trade Center stood. That's the equivalent of what the B-52 represents. And it isn't staying in service out of sentiment. It's staying because nothing else does what it does. An 8,800-mile combat radius without refueling. A payload no modern alternative matches. The flexibility to carry every weapon in the American arsenal. Precision-guided missiles to nuclear warheads on a moment's notice. When this program finishes, the B-52J rolling out will be more capable than at any point in its history. New engines with a supply chain built to last through 2060. Radar matching any fighter jet flying today. A cockpit wired into the modern digital battlefield. A weapons bay carrying 66% more firepower than before. The pilots who will fly those missions in 2050 are in elementary school right now. The enemies they'll face haven't made their move yet. The wars those missions will be fought in don't have names yet, but the aircraft waiting for them is sitting on the flight line at Barksdale right now, fueled, armed, ready. It was built for the Kennedy administration. It will still be flying when no one alive today can remember a world before it existed. That's not just the story of an airplane. That's the most remarkable survival story in the history of American military power. And it's nowhere close to over. Drop a comment. Do you think the Air Force made the right call spending $48.6 billion on a 60-year-old bomber? Or should they have built something new? We read every single one. Hit that like button, subscribe to Arsenal Exposed, and we'll see you in the next one.